Hey there, I'm Maz, and welcome to Mazshow. This is your space to explore big ideas through books, society, knowledge, and history, all with one goal to build a better world and a brighter future. If you are curious, reflective, and ready to grow, you're in the right place. So tap follow, hit subscribe, and let's get thinking.
You know that feeling when you're juggling work, family, and personal goals, and everything feels like it's about to crash? Well, today we're diving into a framework that's been transforming lives for over 3 decades. We're exploring how to apply the 7 habits of highly effective people across different life scenarios, and by the end of this episode, you'll have practical strategies to implement these habits in your own unique situation.
And what's fascinating is that these habits aren't just theoretical concepts, they're based on universal principles that have stood the test of time.
Before we dive in, can you give us a quick overview of these 7 habits?
Absolutely. The 7 habits are: be proactive, begin with the end in mind, put first things first, think win-win, seek first to understand, then to be understood, synergize, and sharpen the saw.
That's quite a list. Let's break these down one by one and see how they apply in different scenarios.
You know what's interesting? Before we do that, there's something fascinating about how we used to think about success. Before World War I, success was all about character, things like humility, integrity, and courage.
And that changed after the war?
Completely. It shifted to what Covey calls the personality ethic, focusing on public image and quick-fix behaviors. But these habits bring us back to character-based success.
Let's start with being proactive. How does that play out in different scenarios?
Well, take the workplace, for example. Being proactive means taking initiative without waiting for your boss to tell you what to do. It's about improving your skills before they become outdated.
And in family life?
In families, it means addressing issues before they become crises. Covey actually wrote a whole book applying these habits to family life, emphasizing the importance of building what he calls an emotional bank account through consistent small actions.
That's fascinating. What about begin with the end in mind?
This is about having a clear vision. In business, it means defining your goals before starting projects. In personal life, it's about creating a personal mission statement.
You know what's really interesting? I came across a case study about Hamilton Sunstrand, where they implemented these habits company-wide.
Oh yes, that's a great example. They saw a 10-point increase in employee satisfaction over just 2 years after implementing the habits.
That's pretty significant. What about put first things first?
This is all about prioritization. It's not just about managing time, but managing ourselves. Covey introduces something called the time management matrix, dividing tasks into urgent and important.
Can you give us an example of how that works?
Sure. Important but not urgent tasks might be exercise or long-term planning. These often get pushed aside for urgent but less important things like certain emails or phone calls.
Let's move to think win-win. This one seems particularly relevant in today's world.
Absolutely. It's about moving beyond competition to collaboration. In business, it means finding solutions that benefit all parties. In relationships, it's about mutual growth.
That ties into the next habit, seek first to understand, then to be understood, right?
Exactly. This is perhaps the most powerful habit in today's diverse workplace. It's about genuine empathetic listening, not just waiting for your turn to speak.
You mentioned something earlier about interdependence being more mature than independence. Can you elaborate on that?
Yes, this is one of Covey's most unique insights. While most self-help focuses on becoming independent, Covey argues that true effectiveness comes from recognizing our interconnectedness.
How does that play out in practice?
Well, take synergize, the 6th habit. It's about creating better solutions together than any individual could alone. This requires both independence and the ability to work with others.
And the final habit, sharpen the saw?
This is about continuous renewal in 4 areas: physical, social, emotional, mental, and spiritual. Without this, the other habits become ineffective.
I've noticed these habits seem to work across different cultures. Why is that?
That's because they're based on universal principles. While the application might vary, the principles themselves, like responsibility, integrity, and mutual respect, are recognized across cultures.
Let's talk about some specific scenarios. How would these habits help someone starting a new job?
Being proactive means taking initiative to learn your role. Beginning with the end in mind means having clear career goals. Understanding before being understood helps you learn from experienced colleagues.
And in relationships?
The emotional bank account concept is crucial here. Making regular deposits through keeping promises, showing kindness, and really listening builds strong relationships.
What about in education?
These principles align perfectly with effective teaching. Research shows that when teachers apply these habits, student engagement and learning outcomes improve significantly.
Can you give us an example?
Sure, seek first to understand helps teachers recognize different learning styles. Think win-win creates a collaborative classroom environment. Be proactive encourages students to take responsibility for their learning.
What about in times of crisis or change?
That's when these habits become most valuable. Being proactive helps you respond rather than react. Having clear principles guides decision-making when everything seems uncertain.
I imagine the pandemic really tested these principles.
Absolutely. Organizations that already had these habits in place adapted more quickly. They had the foundation of trust and clear communication needed for remote work.
Let's talk about common obstacles. What prevents people from implementing these habits?
Often it's the gap between knowing and doing. We understand the principles intellectually, but struggle to apply them consistently in daily life.
How do you overcome that?
Start small. Focus on one habit at a time. Create specific, actionable steps. For example, if you're working on being proactive, start by identifying one small area where you can take initiative.
What about measuring progress?
Keep a journal. Track specific behaviors. Look for small wins. Remember that change is gradual. It's about progress, not perfection.
Are there any habits that tend to be particularly challenging?
Seek first to understand is often the most difficult because it requires us to suspend our own agenda and truly listen. It's also the most transformative when mastered.
How do these habits help with work-life balance?
They provide a framework for making conscious choices. Put first things first helps you prioritize what truly matters. Sharpen the saw ensures you're taking care of yourself.
What about in team settings?
Teams that adopt these habits see improved communication and collaboration. The principle of synergy becomes particularly powerful when everyone is working from the same framework.
Can you share some success stories?
Besides the Hamilton-Sundstrand case we mentioned earlier, many organizations have seen remarkable results. One subsidiary saw their employee satisfaction increase by 7 points in just 2 years.
That's impressive. What about personal success stories?
There are countless examples. People have used these habits to transform their careers, repair relationships, and achieve personal goals they once thought impossible.
As we wrap up, what's the key message you want listeners to take away?
These habits work because they're based on timeless principles. They're not quick fixes or life hacks, they're fundamental patterns of effective living.
And they can be applied in any situation?
Exactly. Whether you're a student, parent, professional, or leader, these habits provide a framework for growth and effectiveness.
What's the first step for someone wanting to implement these habits?
Start with being proactive. Choose one area of your life where you can take more initiative. Remember, small, consistent actions lead to significant changes over time.
Any final thoughts?
These habits aren't just about personal success, they're about creating positive change in all our spheres of influence. When we live these principles, we impact not just ourselves, but everyone around us.
Thank you for these insights. And to our listeners, remember, effectiveness isn't about doing more things right, it's about doing the right things consistently.
And it all starts with that first proactive step.
You know that sinking feeling when someone asks, "Tell me about yourself," and your mind goes blank? Today, we're tackling something that affects every single one of us, owning and telling your career story. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how to craft a compelling narrative about your professional journey and use it to open doors you never thought possible.
And it couldn't be more timely. You know, according to recent research, we're in the middle of the biggest workplace transformation in decades. The ability to tell your story effectively isn't just a nice to have anymore, it's becoming absolutely crucial for career success.
So what exactly makes a career story effective? Because I feel like there's a fine line between confident self-presentation and, well, just bragging.
That's such a good question. A career narrative is actually much more than just listing your jobs or achievements. According to career experts, it's a strategic tool that highlights your professional growth, skills, and unique attributes in a way that gives deeper meaning to your experiences.
Go on.
Well, think of it this way. Your career story is like a timeline you create to show where you've been, what you've done, and how you've grown. But here's what's fascinating. Research shows that the most memorable stories aren't just about successes.
Really? What makes them memorable then?
You know, it's interesting. Studies in storytelling show that people remember complex narratives with challenges and growth 60% more clearly than simple success stories. It's about showing your journey, including the obstacles you've overcome.
That's actually pretty reassuring. It means we don't have to pretend everything was perfect.
Exactly. And here's something else that might surprise you. Your career path isn't actually supposed to be a straight line. Modern career experts describe it more like a jungle gym than a ladder.
A jungle gym? That's an interesting metaphor.
Yeah, because sometimes you need to move sideways or even backwards to ultimately move forward. The key is being able to explain those moves as part of your larger story.
So how do we actually start building this narrative? Like, what's step one?
According to career development experts, one of the most effective approaches is to work backward from your ideal legacy. Imagine you're at your retirement party. What do you want people to say about your career?
Oh, that's powerful. It really makes you think about the bigger picture.
Right, and once you have that vision, you can break it down into what career experts call SMART goals: specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, and time-bound steps to get there.
You mentioned something about metrics earlier. How do those fit in?
Well, research shows that stories with specific numbers and achievements are more credible. But here's the key: you need to frame those metrics in terms of impact, not just numbers.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of just saying you managed a team of 10, you might talk about how you developed and implemented strategies that increased team productivity by 30% while maintaining high employee satisfaction scores.
That makes sense. It's not just about what you did, but the impact you had.
Exactly. And you know what's interesting? This approach aligns perfectly with what Gen Z is bringing to the workplace: a focus on authenticity and meaningful impact.
Oh, yeah? Tell me more about that connection.
Recent studies show that Gen Z is reshaping the workplace by demanding purpose-driven work and authentic communication. They're actually pushing organizations to rethink how they evaluate and develop talent.
That's fascinating. So, how do we adapt our career stories for different audiences?
According to Yale's Office of Career Strategy, it's crucial to understand your audience and tailor your narrative. Different contexts require different emphasis. What you share in a job interview might be different from what you share at a networking event.
Right, context matters.
And here's something really important. Career experts emphasize that your story should evolve over time. It's not something you write once and memorize.
That makes me think about how often we should update our career narrative.
Research suggests reviewing and refreshing your professional narrative at least once a year. It's about staying current with your achievements and adapting to changes in your industry.
Once a year? That seems doable.
Yeah, and it's not just about updating your resume. It's about reflecting on your growth and ensuring your story aligns with where you want to go next.
Speaking of growth, what role do challenges play in our career stories?
That's where it gets really interesting. Career experts actually recommend including challenges in your narrative because they demonstrate resilience and learning ability.
But how do we talk about challenges without seeming negative?
The key is to frame them as growth opportunities. Research shows that employers value candidates who can demonstrate how they've learned and adapted from difficult situations.
That's helpful. What about when we're making a career transition?
Career transitions are actually where strong narratives become most crucial. Studies show that employers are more likely to take a chance on someone who can clearly articulate how their past experience connects to their future goals.
Makes sense. You're helping them connect the dots.
Exactly. And here's something fascinating. Research indicates that people who maintain strong professional narratives are 40% more likely to achieve their career goals.
Wow, 40%? That's significant.
It is. And it makes sense when you think about it. When you have a clear story, you're better equipped to recognize and seize opportunities that align with your goals.
Let's talk about common mistakes. What should people avoid?
Career experts identify several key pitfalls. The biggest one is focusing too much on job titles and responsibilities instead of impact and growth.
Yeah, that makes sense. What else?
Another common mistake is not adapting your story for different audiences. Your narrative should shift slightly depending on whether you're talking to a potential employer, a mentor, or a networking contact.
How about keeping track of our achievements? Any tips there?
Yes. Career development experts strongly recommend keeping a professional journal or achievement log. Document your wins, challenges, and learning moments as they happen.
That would definitely make it easier to update your story regularly.
And it helps you identify patterns in your career journey. You might notice themes or strengths you hadn't recognized before.
What about the delivery? How important is how we tell our story?
Incredibly important. Research shows that the way you tell your story can be just as important as the content. Confidence and authenticity are key.
Any specific tips for delivery?
Career experts recommend practicing your story out loud, but not memorizing it word for word. You want it to feel natural and conversational.
That makes sense. Keep it authentic.
Right. And remember, your story isn't just for job interviews. It's a tool for networking, mentorship, and even personal brand building.
Speaking of personal brand, how does that fit in?
Your career narrative is actually the foundation of your personal brand. It should align with how you present yourself professionally across all platforms.
Including social media?
Absolutely. Studies show that 79% of employers now check candidates' social media profiles. Your online presence should reinforce your professional narrative.
That's a high percentage.
It is, and it's expected to keep growing. That's why consistency across all professional platforms is so important.
So, what's the first step someone should take after listening to this episode?
Start with that legacy exercise we discussed. Imagine your retirement party and work backward. Then begin documenting your achievements and impact.
And keep updating it regularly.
Exactly. Remember, your career story is a living document that grows and evolves with you.
This has been incredibly helpful. Any final thoughts?
Yes, remember that your career story is ultimately about impact and growth. Focus on how you've made a difference and how you've evolved professionally.
Well, there you have it, folks. Your career story is your most powerful professional tool. It's time to start crafting it. You know that question we all got asked as kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? Well, here's a more unsettling one. What do you want people to say at your funeral? Today, we're diving deep into designing a life that actually works, exploring how to create lasting meaning, and discovering why starting with the end in mind might be the key to living your best life right now.
That's quite the opening there. And you know what's fascinating? Most people spend more time planning their next vacation than planning their life.
That's actually kind of terrifying when you think about it. Why do you think that is?
Well, according to recent research, it's because we often get caught up in what's urgent rather than what's truly important. We're climbing ladders without checking if they're leaning against the right wall.
Oh, I love that metaphor. Can you break down what you mean by the right wall?
Sure, it's about understanding that everything is actually created twice, first in our minds, then in reality. Just like how a building follows a blueprint, our life follows our vision, or lack thereof.
Wait, so you're saying if we don't create that mental blueprint...
Exactly. If we don't make a conscious effort to visualize who we are and what we want in life, we essentially empower other people and circumstances to shape us by default.
That's pretty powerful. And kind of scary, honestly.
It is. But here's what's interesting. Research shows that goal setting actually has profound psychological benefits. It's not just about achievement.
Tell me more about those benefits.
Well, according to recent studies, setting goals satisfies 3 basic psychological needs: autonomy, feeling in charge of your life; competence, feeling capable; and connection with others.
That's interesting. So it's not just about checking things off a list?
Not at all. You know what's fascinating? When we achieve goals, our brain releases dopamine, that feel-good chemical. Even small wins trigger this response.
Is that why checking something off a to-do list feels so satisfying?
Exactly. It's your brain literally celebrating a win. But here's where it gets really interesting. There's a difference between what David Brooks calls resume virtues and eulogy virtues.
Oh, that sounds intriguing. What's the difference?
Resume virtues are the skills you bring to the job market, your external success. Eulogy virtues are deeper. They're what people would say about you at your funeral, like whether you were kind, brave, or faithful.
Wow. That really puts things in perspective.
Right, and here's the thing. Many people achieve what looks like success, only to find it feels empty because they focus solely on resume virtues.
So how do we avoid that trap?
Research suggests starting with a personal mission statement. It's like writing your own constitution. It reaffirms who you are and puts your goals in focus.
That sounds great in theory, but how do you actually create one?
Well, it starts with identifying your personal, moral, and ethical guidelines, the principles within which you can most happily express and fulfill yourself.
But isn't that kind of overwhelming? Where do you even start?
Studies show it's actually better to start small. Break down your bigger vision into smaller, achievable objectives.
That makes sense. Kind of like building blocks?
Exactly. And research indicates that when you achieve these smaller goals, it boosts your self-esteem and motivation for tackling bigger challenges.
I've heard some people say goals can actually be harmful, though, like creating too much pressure.
That's a valid concern. Recent studies show that unclear or unrealistic goals can lead to frustration and failure. The key is setting what researchers call SMART goals.
SMART goals? What's that about?
They're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. Research shows this framework significantly increases success rates.
That makes a lot of sense. But what about when life throws curveballs?
That's where flexibility comes in. Studies show that successful goal setters maintain healthy expectations and understand that external circumstances can affect outcomes.
So it's about balance?
Exactly. And having what researchers call an accountability team, trusted people who can support and encourage you.
That's interesting. So it's not just a solo journey?
Not at all. Research consistently shows that social support significantly increases goal achievement rates.
Let's talk about motivation. How do you stay motivated long term?
Studies show that intrinsic motivation, doing things because they matter to you personally, is far more effective than external rewards.
So it's about finding your why.
Exactly. Psychologists like Viktor Frankl found that having a clear purpose helps people push through tough times.
That reminds me, you mentioned something earlier about two creations. Can you elaborate on that?
Sure. Research shows that successful life design follows this pattern. First, the mental creation, your vision, then the physical creation, your actions.
Like writing a story before living it?
Exactly. And studies indicate that this approach leads to more satisfaction and better outcomes than just reacting to life as it comes.
What about people who say they don't know what they want?
Research suggests starting with what you don't want can be just as valuable. It helps clarify your values and preferences through contrast.
That's actually really helpful advice.
And here's something interesting. Studies show that just the act of setting goals increases focus and persistence, even before achieving anything.
Really? Just setting them makes a difference?
Yes, because it activates what researchers call our behavioral activation system. Basically, it gets our brain ready for action.
That's fascinating. So what's the first step someone should take?
Research suggests starting with that funeral exercise we mentioned earlier. Imagine what you want people to say about you, then work backward.
That seems intense.
It is, but studies show that this kind of visualization helps clarify our values and priorities more effectively than traditional goal-setting methods.
And then what?
Then you start small. Research indicates that breaking down your vision into daily actions creates sustainable change.
It's like that saying about how you eat an elephant one bite at a time.
Exactly. And studies show this approach reduces overwhelm and increases the likelihood of success.
What about setbacks? They're inevitable, right?
Absolutely. Research shows that expecting and planning for setbacks actually improves long-term success rates.
That's counterintuitive, but makes sense.
And here's what's really interesting. Studies show that people who view setbacks as learning opportunities are more likely to achieve their goals.
So it's about the mindset?
Exactly. Research indicates that a growth mindset, believing you can improve, is crucial for long-term success.
This has been incredibly insightful. Any final thoughts?
Yes, studies consistently show that people who design their lives intentionally report higher levels of satisfaction and fulfillment.
So the key is really just starting, right?
Exactly. As research shows, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now.
Well, there you have it, folks. Remember, your life is too important to leave to chance. Start designing it today. Did you know that multitasking can reduce your productivity by up to 40%? Today, we're diving into the art of prioritization, specifically how to put first things first, make better decisions about your time, and finally feel in control of your day. By the end of this episode, you'll understand how to identify what truly matters and create a system that works for you.
And it's fascinating how many people get this wrong. According to recent studies, only 12% of employees feel fully productive at work. That's a staggeringly low number.
Only 12%? That's shocking. What's causing this massive productivity gap?
Well, it comes down to how we prioritize. Most people react to whatever seems urgent in the moment, instead of focusing on what's truly important.
Can you break down the difference between urgent and important? I feel like people often confuse these.
Absolutely. Stephen Covey, in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, created what's called the time management matrix. It divides tasks into 4 quadrants based on urgency and importance.
Oh, interesting. Tell us more about these quadrants.
So, quadrant 1 is urgent and important. These are your crises and deadline-driven projects, things that need immediate attention.
Like when your boss needs that report by tomorrow morning?
Exactly. But here's where it gets interesting. Quadrant 2 is important but not urgent. This is where the real magic happens.
What kinds of things fall into quadrant 2?
Things like planning, preparation, relationship building, and personal development. These activities don't scream for immediate attention, but they're crucial for long-term success.
You know, it reminds me of that jar analogy, where if you put the big rocks in first, the smaller ones naturally fill in the spaces.
That's a perfect analogy. And research backs this up. Studies show that people who effectively prioritize are 40% better at managing their time.
40%? That's significant.
And they experience 30% less stress. But here's the catch. Most people spend too much time in quadrants 3 and 4.
What's in those quadrants?
Quadrant 3 is urgent but not important. Think interruptions, some meetings, and many emails. Quadrant 4 is neither urgent nor important, like excessive social media or busy work.
Speaking of social media, I saw a stat that 90% of teens find phones and social media distracting. I imagine that applies to adults too.
Absolutely. And it's not just about the time spent on these platforms, it's about the mental energy they drain from us.
So how do we start shifting our focus to what really matters?
The first step is to audit your time. For 1 week, track everything you do and categorize it into the 4 quadrants.
Everything? That sounds overwhelming.
It can be at first, but here's a fun way to think about it. Remember in Austin Powers when Dr. Evil demands $1 million and everyone laughs because it's not that much anymore?
Yeah, what's that got to do with prioritization?
Well, just like our sense of value changes over time, our priorities need to evolve too. What seemed important last year might not be crucial now.
That's actually a really good point. So after we track our time, then what?
Then you start making strategic decisions. According to Dr. Sarah Johnson from Stanford, it's not just about making a to-do list, it's about understanding the impact of each task on your overall goals.
Can you give us an example?
Sure. Let's say you have a presentation next month. Most people would wait until it becomes urgent, making it a quadrant 1 task.
But the better approach would be...
to treat it as a quadrant 2 task. Start early, break it down into smaller pieces, and work on it consistently. This reduces stress and typically produces better results.
That makes sense. But what about when everything feels urgent and important?
That's where the 80-20 rule comes in. Research shows that 80% of our results come from just 20% of our efforts.
So we should focus on identifying that crucial 20%?
Exactly. And here's a practical tip. Use the SMART criteria for your goals: specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
That sounds like it would help with clarity.
It does. Studies show that people who use SMART goals are 15% more likely to achieve them.
What about dealing with interruptions? Those can really derail your priorities.
This is where time blocking comes in. Set specific periods for focused work and stick to them.
And for the unavoidable interruptions?
Create buffer time in your schedule. Research shows that planning for interruptions actually makes you more productive overall.
You mentioned earlier that proper prioritization reduces stress by 30%. How does that work?
When you're clear about what matters most, you spend less mental energy on decisions. You're not constantly questioning whether you're working on the right thing.
That makes a lot of sense.
And here's something interesting. Studies show that young adults who master prioritization often see a 20% improvement in their performance.
That's impressive. Any tips specifically for young professionals?
Yes, start by identifying your peak productivity hours and schedule your most important tasks during that time.
And I imagine avoiding multitasking is crucial too?
Absolutely. The Harvard Business Review found that multitasking can reduce productivity by up to 40%. It's better to focus on one task at a time.
What about digital tools? Any recommendations?
The best tool is the one you'll actually use. But research shows that simple time tracking apps can increase productivity by helping you understand where your time really goes.
That makes sense. Sometimes we think we're spending time one way, but the reality is quite different.
Exactly. And remember, the goal isn't to become a productivity robot. It's about making conscious choices with your time.
Let's talk about common mistakes. What do you see people getting wrong most often?
The biggest mistake is confusing busy work with important work. Just because your calendar is full doesn't mean you're being productive.
That's a tough one to overcome.
It is, but here's a practical tip. At the end of each week, review what you accomplished versus what kept you busy.
That weekly review seems crucial.
It is. Studies show that regular reflection can improve future performance by up to 23%.
As we wrap up, what's one final piece of advice for our listeners?
Remember that prioritization is a skill that can be learned and improved. Start small, be consistent, and keep refining your approach.
And it seems like the benefits are worth the effort.
Absolutely. When you put first things first, everything else tends to fall into place.
Remember, your time is like that jar. Fill it with the big rocks first, and you'll be amazed at how everything else fits around them.
And don't forget, it's not about doing more things, it's about doing the right things.
Thanks for joining us today. Next time you feel overwhelmed, remember, prioritize your power and watch your productivity soar. Did you know that most people are literally throwing away 3 hours of productivity every single week? And it's not because they're lazy or unmotivated, it's because they're stuck in outdated ways of working together.
That's actually a conservative estimate. According to recent studies, some teams are losing up to 6 hours per week. That's nearly a full workday, just due to poor collaboration.
Today, we're diving deep into the art of building stronger collaborations through win-win thinking. You'll learn why traditional competitive approaches are failing, how to create genuine partnerships that benefit everyone, and the specific strategies that top-performing teams use to boost their results by up to 25%.
And those numbers aren't just theoretical. McKinsey's research shows that when teams really get collaboration right, that 25% productivity boost is absolutely achievable.
So what exactly do we mean by win-win collaboration? Because I feel like this term gets thrown around a lot, but people often misunderstand it.
You know, it's funny you mentioned that. There's this great episode of The Office where they actually make fun of this confusion. They talk about win-win versus win-win-win scenarios.
Oh yeah, what happens in that episode?
Michael Scott, in his typical fashion, is trying to mediate a conflict and explains that win-win is actually option number 4, while win-win-win is option 5 because he also wins for successfully mediating. It perfectly captures how people often misunderstand what true collaboration means.
That's hilarious and probably hits close to home for a lot of managers out there.
Exactly. But real win-win collaboration isn't about everyone getting an equal piece of the pie or avoiding conflict at all costs. It's about working together to actually make the pie bigger.
Can you break that down a bit more? What does making the pie bigger actually look like in practice?
Think of it like a jazz ensemble. Each musician brings their own instrument and style, but the magic happens when everyone listens and adapts to each other. The result is something none of them could create alone.
That's a great analogy. But I have to ask, why are we talking about this now? What's making collaboration so crucial in today's business environment?
Well, according to Gartner's research, employee satisfaction with workplace collaboration has actually dropped to 29%, down from 36% in 2021. That's a pretty significant decline.
Wait, so despite all our fancy collaboration tools and remote work setups, people are actually less satisfied with how they're working together?
Exactly. And this is happening at a time when collaboration is more important than ever. The challenges businesses face today are too complex for any one person or department to solve alone.
So what are the key ingredients for successful collaboration? What separates the teams that get it right from those that struggle?
The research points to 3 critical elements: trust, clear communication, and aligned goals. Without these foundations, collaboration efforts tend to fall apart.
Let's dig into those. How do you build trust in a collaborative relationship?
It starts with transparency and consistent follow-through. When partners share information openly and deliver on their commitments, trust naturally develops.
That makes sense. What about communication? What does that look like in practice?
Effective communication in collaboration means both sharing clearly and listening actively. It's about creating an environment where people feel safe to express ideas and concerns.
And I imagine that's where a lot of teams struggle, right? Creating that psychological safety?
Absolutely. Google's Project Aristotle found that psychological safety was actually the most significant factor in successful teams.
Can you give us an example of what good collaboration looks like in practice?
Sure. Cisco provides a great example. When they integrated their collaboration tool across departments, they saw a 20% increase in project completion rates.
That's impressive. What specifically did they do differently?
They focused on creating clear channels for communication and ensuring everyone had access to the information they needed to do their jobs effectively.
But it's not always smooth sailing, right? What are some common challenges teams face?
One of the biggest challenges is overcoming the scarcity mindset, this idea that if someone else wins, you must lose.
Ah, the old zero-sum game thinking.
Exactly. But successful collaboration requires an abundance mindset, believing there's enough success to go around and that by working together, we can create more value for everyone.
How do you help people make that shift in thinking?
It often helps to focus on concrete examples. When teams see how collaboration leads to better outcomes, like that 25 productivity boost we mentioned earlier, it becomes easier to embrace.
Let's talk about some practical strategies. What can leaders do to foster better collaboration?
One effective approach is to start meetings by having each person share something they're struggling with that someone else might be able to help solve.
That's interesting. It immediately creates opportunities for collaboration.
Right, and it normalizes asking for help, which is crucial for building a collaborative culture.
What about measuring success? How do you know if your collaboration efforts are working?
There are several key metrics to track: project completion rates, employee satisfaction scores, and time saved through better coordination.
And what kind of improvements should teams expect to see?
According to research, organizations with strong cross-team collaboration see 50% higher productivity and 76% more engagement.
Those are pretty compelling numbers.
They are, and they show why investing in collaboration isn't just nice to have, it's a business imperative.
Let's talk about technology's role in all this. How important are collaboration tools?
Tools are important, but they're not a silver bullet. The best technology in the world won't help if you don't have the right mindset and culture.
So culture comes first?
Absolutely. The most successful organizations focus on building a collaborative culture first, then use technology to enhance and enable that culture.
What about remote teams? Does distance make collaboration harder?
It can present challenges, but with the right approach, remote teams can be just as collaborative as co-located ones. It just requires more intentional effort.
What kind of intentional effort are we talking about?
Things like scheduling regular check-ins, creating virtual spaces for informal interaction, and being extra clear about expectations and deadlines.
Are there any common mistakes you see teams making when trying to improve collaboration?
One big one is focusing too much on formal processes and not enough on building relationships and trust.
That makes sense. You can't force collaboration through procedures alone.
Exactly. Successful collaboration has to grow organically from a foundation of trust and shared purpose.
As we wrap up, what's one piece of advice you'd give to someone looking to build stronger collaborations?
Start small. Look for opportunities to create win-win situations in your daily interactions. Those small wins build momentum for bigger collaborative efforts.
That's great advice. Any final thoughts?
Remember that true collaboration isn't about giving up what you want. It's about finding ways to achieve more together than you could alone.
One thing becomes clear. Collaboration isn't just a nice-to-have skill anymore. It's essential for success in today's business world.
And the research backs that up. When teams get collaboration right, they're not just more productive, they're more innovative, more engaged, and better equipped to handle complex challenges.
So here's your challenge, listeners. Try approaching one challenging situation with a win-win mindset. Look for ways to expand the pie instead of just dividing it.
And remember that 3 sick hours of lost productivity we mentioned at the start? That's what's at stake. Better collaboration isn't just about feeling good, it's about achieving real, measurable results.
Until next time, remember, when it comes to success in modern business, nobody wins alone.
You know what's wild? We spend years learning how to read, write, and speak, but when it comes to listening, most of us get zero training. Today, we're diving into the art of truly understanding others before trying to be understood, and how this one shift can transform every relationship in your life.
That's such a crucial point. And you know what's fascinating? Research shows that most people listen with the intent to reply, not to understand. We're basically just waiting for our turn to talk.
Oh man, I'm definitely guilty of that sometimes. Like mentally preparing my response while someone's still talking.
Exactly. And according to research from Stanford, this is why so many misunderstandings happen. We filter everything through our own experiences instead of truly trying to understand the other person's perspective.
So what does real listening actually look like?
Well, it's what psychologists call empathetic listening. It's about putting yourself in someone else's shoes and trying to understand their emotions, intentions, and even their unspoken thoughts.
That sounds challenging.
It is. But here's what's interesting. Studies show that empathy acts like a psychological superglue in society. It's what connects people and makes cooperation possible.
Psychological superglue? That's such a vivid way to put it.
Yeah, and get this. Research shows that empathetic people are more likely to donate to charity, help others in need, and even show more forgiveness in relationships.
So it's not just about better conversations, it actually makes us better people?
Exactly. And what's really fascinating is that empathy isn't just an innate trait, it's a skill we can develop.
Okay, so what gets in the way? Why is it so hard for us to listen properly?
Well, research identifies several common barriers. Stress is a big one. When we're stressed, we're more likely to misread others and send confusing signals ourselves.
That makes sense. What else?
Lack of focus is huge. When we're multitasking or planning what to say next, we miss crucial nonverbal cues in the conversation.
Oh yeah, like when someone's nodding but clearly checking their phone.
Exactly. And here's something really interesting. Studies show that people who engage in substantive conversations report higher levels of happiness compared to those who stick to small talk.
Really? Just from having deeper conversations?
Yes, and it makes sense when you think about it. Meaningful conversations reduce feelings of loneliness and isolation.
So how do we actually do this? Like, what are the practical steps?
Well, one key technique is what experts call active listening. It's about giving your full attention and showing that you understand.
And how's that different from regular listening?
Regular listening is just hearing and interpreting words. Active listening involves understanding tone, timing, body language, and context.
That sounds like a lot to keep track of.
It is at first, but it becomes natural with practice. And here's what's important. It's not about analyzing or probing or trying to fix things.
Oh, like when someone shares a problem and we immediately jump to solutions?
Exactly. That's actually one of the biggest barriers to real understanding. Sometimes people just need to be heard, not fixed.
You know what's interesting? This reminds me of something I read about relationships.
What's that?
Apparently, research shows that about 2/3 of disagreements in relationships are actually not resolvable.
Yes, that's from Dr. John Gottman's research. The key isn't solving every disagreement, it's learning to communicate about them effectively.
That's kind of liberating, isn't it? Like, we don't have to agree on everything.
Absolutely. In fact, having different viewpoints is healthy. The problem isn't disagreement, it's how we handle it.
So what are some practical tips for handling those differences better?
One key approach is to let go of blame. Instead of finding fault, focus on understanding and solving the issue at hand.
Like the spilled milk example, focusing on cleaning it up rather than whose fault it was?
Exactly. And research shows this approach leads to better outcomes in both personal and professional relationships.
Speaking of professional relationships, how does this apply in the workplace?
Well, studies show that empathetic listening can significantly improve workplace collaboration and innovation.
Really? How so?
When team members feel truly heard and understood, they're more likely to share ideas and take creative risks.
That makes sense. It's harder to be creative if you're worried about being judged.
And here's something fascinating. Research shows that teams with higher levels of empathetic communication are more productive and innovative.
So it's not just about feeling good, it actually impacts the bottom line?
Absolutely. And it goes beyond just workplace performance. Studies show that empathetic leaders are more effective at managing teams and resolving conflicts.
You know what I'm wondering? How do you balance being empathetic with being direct?
That's a great question. Being empathetic doesn't mean avoiding difficult conversations. It means having them more effectively.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Instead of immediately criticizing someone's work, you might first try to understand their perspective and challenges.
That makes sense. It's not about sugarcoating, it's about understanding.
Exactly. And research shows this approach actually makes feedback more effective because people are more receptive when they feel understood.
So it's kind of like creating a safe space for honest communication?
Yes, and that safety is crucial. Studies show that psychological safety, feeling safe to be vulnerable and honest, is key to effective communication.
What about when emotions are running high? How do you stay empathetic then?
That's when it's most important and most challenging. Research shows that taking a moment to breathe and center yourself can help maintain empathetic listening.
Like a pause button for your reactions?
Exactly. It gives you time to shift from reacting to understanding.
This all sounds great, but let's be real, it's not easy to change how we communicate.
You're right, it takes practice. But research shows that even small improvements in empathetic listening can have significant positive impacts.
What's a good first step for someone wanting to improve?
Start with one conversation a day where you focus solely on understanding, not responding. Just notice how different it feels.
That sounds doable. And I guess the benefits make it worth the effort?
Absolutely. Studies consistently show that better listening leads to stronger relationships, reduced conflict, and even improved mental health.
So when we step back from everything we've covered, what's the big takeaway?
The key is remembering that understanding others isn't just about being nice, it's about creating stronger connections and better outcomes in every area of life.
And it starts with something as simple as really listening.
Exactly. When we truly seek to understand before being understood, we create space for real connection and growth.
Remember, the next time someone's talking to you, try something different. Instead of planning your response, just focus on understanding. You might be amazed at what you hear.
And what you learn about yourself in the process.
Keep practicing that empathetic listening. It's the superglue we all need. You know that moment when a band starts playing and suddenly every instrument clicks into perfect harmony? That's not just music, that's synergy in action. Today, we're exploring how to make 1 + 1 = 3 in real life, revealing the secrets of synergy that transform ordinary collaborations into extraordinary results.
That's such a perfect example to start with. You know, when a band creates that magical moment, they're tapping into something that goes back to ancient Greece.
Ancient Greece? Tell me more about that connection.
Yeah, the word synergy comes from the Greek synergia, which means working together. But it's fascinating how this concept has evolved. By the mid-20th century, visionaries like Buckminster Fuller were applying it to design and engineering.
So we've known about this power for thousands of years, but it seems like we're still trying to master it. What exactly makes synergy different from just regular collaboration?
That's a great question. Think of it like this. Collaboration is when people work together, but synergy is when that collaboration creates something bigger than anyone could have achieved alone. It's like that band example you mentioned. Each musician could play their part perfectly, but true synergy creates that spine-tingling moment when it all comes together into something magical.
I can almost hear that moment. But how do we create that kind of synergy in everyday situations?
Well, according to recent research, it starts with something counterintuitive. We need to value differences, not just tolerate them.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Isn't tolerance good?
Tolerance is just the starting point. Think about successful teams at companies like Google. They actively seek out different perspectives because they know that's where innovation comes from.
Can you give us a specific example of how that works?
Sure. One great example is Google's integration of Chrome and Android. They brought together teams with completely different expertise, web browsers, and mobile operating systems. By valuing those differences, they created something neither team could have built alone.
That's fascinating. So it's not just about playing nice, it's about actively seeking out different perspectives.
Exactly. And here's what's really interesting. Studies show that teams who embrace these differences actually show higher levels of emotional intelligence.
Higher emotional intelligence, how does that work?
Well, when you're truly open to different perspectives, you have to develop better listening skills, more empathy, and stronger communication abilities. It's like a muscle. The more you use it, the stronger it gets.
That makes sense. But what about when things go wrong? I mean, not every collaboration turns into synergy, right?
You're absolutely right. Sometimes things devolve into chaos instead of evolving into synergy. It's like that relay race example. One fumbled handoff can derail the whole team.
Oh, that's a vivid image. What causes those fumbles?
Usually, it comes down to trust. According to recent research, there's a direct correlation between trust levels and communication effectiveness. Without trust, people hold back, play it safe, and true synergy becomes impossible.
So how do we build that trust?
It starts with creating what psychologists call psychological safety, an environment where people feel safe to take risks and be vulnerable.
That sounds great in theory, but how does it work in practice?
Let me share a real example. Mayo Clinic implemented a collaborative leadership approach where they actively encourage all team members, from surgeons to nurses, to speak up about potential issues.
And that actually works?
Absolutely. Their data shows it's led to better patient outcomes and fewer medical errors. It's a perfect example of synergy in action. When everyone feels safe to contribute, the whole becomes greater than the sum of its parts.
That's powerful. But let's talk about relationships for a moment. How does synergy work there?
This is where it gets really interesting. Recent psychology research describes relationship synergy as a kind of interpersonal alchemy.
Alchemy? Like turning lead into gold?
Exactly. Just like ancient alchemists tried to transform basic elements into something more valuable, relationship synergy transforms basic interactions into something more meaningful.
That's a beautiful metaphor. How do we create that kind of transformation?
It starts with understanding that synergy isn't about compromise. In fact, compromise often reduces potential. It's like settling for 1-1-1-5 instead of aiming for 3 or more.
Wait, so compromise isn't good?
Compromise has its place, but true synergy aims higher. It's about finding what Stephen Covey calls the third alternative. Not my way or your way, but a better way neither of us saw before.
Can you give us an example of this third alternative in action?
Sure. Look at successful nonprofit collaborations like Charity Water and Water.org. Instead of competing or compromising, they combined their different approaches to create something more effective than either could achieve alone.
That's really interesting. How did they do that specifically?
While Charity Water focused on raising awareness and funding, Water.org specialized in sustainable financing models. By combining these approaches, they created a more comprehensive solution to the global water crisis.
So they turned potential competition into cooperation.
Exactly. And that's a key principle of synergy. It's not about eliminating differences, it's about leveraging them.
But surely there must be challenges in maintaining that kind of synergy over time?
Oh, absolutely. One of the biggest challenges is what researchers call synergy fatigue, when teams start taking the magic for granted and fall back into old patterns.
How do you prevent that from happening?
Recent studies show it's about creating what they call renewal points, regular opportunities to reconnect, realign, and remember why the collaboration matters.
That makes sense. It's like tuning an instrument. You can't just do it once and expect it to stay in tune forever.
That's a perfect analogy. And just like with music, the effort of staying in tune is worth it for those moments of perfect harmony.
Let's talk about practical steps. What can our listeners do tomorrow to start creating more synergy in their lives?
The first step is to shift your mindset from seeing differences as obstacles to seeing them as opportunities. Look for situations where different perspectives might create something new.
And after that?
Practice what researchers call active valuing. Deliberately seek out and appreciate different viewpoints, even when they challenge your own.
That sounds challenging.
It is, but studies show that teams who practice this consistently are 60% more likely to find innovative solutions to problems.
Those are impressive numbers. Any other practical tips?
Yes, create what psychologists call synergy spaces, environments where people feel safe to share ideas and take risks. This could be physical spaces or just regular time set aside for creative collaboration.
I love that idea of intentionally creating space for synergy to happen.
And here's what's really powerful. Once you start creating these spaces, synergy often starts happening naturally in other areas too.
It's like it becomes a habit?
Exactly. Research shows that teams who regularly practice synergistic thinking start seeing opportunities for it everywhere.
That's fascinating. Any final thoughts on making synergy last?
Remember that synergy isn't a destination, it's a journey. It's about constantly looking for those opportunities to turn one woe into 3 or 10 or even 1,000.
Or like our band example, always searching for that perfect harmony.
Exactly. And just like in music, the more you practice, the more natural it becomes.
Well, as we wrap up today's episode of Copilot Podcasts, what's the one thing you want listeners to remember about synergy?
That it's not magic, it's a skill we can all develop. And when we do, we unlock possibilities we never thought possible.
I love that. And speaking of synergy, I think we just created some right here in this conversation.
We absolutely did. And that's the beauty of it. Once you start looking for synergy, you start finding it everywhere.
Remember, the next time you're collaborating with someone, don't just aim for addition, aim for multiplication.
You know that feeling when your phone battery dies right when you need it most? Well, that's exactly what's happening to millions of professionals every day, except it's not their phones running out of juice, it's themselves. Today, we're diving into how to sharpen your saw, the art of sustainable personal growth, and energy management. By the end of this episode, you'll understand the 4 dimensions of renewal and practical strategies to maintain peak performance without burning out.
And you know what's fascinating? Research shows that most people spend so much time working that they completely forget to maintain their most important tool, themselves.
It's like trying to cut down a forest with a dull saw, right?
Exactly. And according to Franklin Covey research, this habit, sharpen the saw, is about preserving and enhancing the greatest asset we have to deal with life and contribute, ourselves.
So break this down for us. What exactly are we talking about when we say sharpen the saw?
Well, it comes down to four key dimensions: body, heart, mind, and spirit. Think of them as the four legs of a table. If one's wobbly, the whole thing becomes unstable.
Interesting. Can you walk us through each one?
Let's start with the physical dimension, the body. This involves exercising, eating well, and getting enough sleep. Recent studies show that these basics are often the first things professionals sacrifice when they're busy,
Oh, yeah, the classic I'll sleep when I'm dead mentality.
which is ironic because research indicates that lack of sleep actually makes you less productive. The second dimension is heart, investing in relationships and emotional well-being.
That's something we often overlook in the professional world, isn't it?
Absolutely. According to recent psychological studies, emotional well-being directly impacts our ability to maintain long-term motivation and resilience.
What about the mind dimension?
The mind dimension is about continuous learning and growth. This could be reading, writing, or learning new skills. But here's what's interesting. It's not just about cramming more information in.
What do you mean?
Well, recent research shows that effective learning requires periods of rest and reflection. It's not just about input, it's about processing and integration.
And the fourth dimension, spirit?
Spirit refers to connecting with your values and finding meaning in what you do. Studies show that people who align their actions with their values maintain motivation longer.
You know what this reminds me of? It's like maintaining a car. You can't just keep driving without ever changing the oil or checking the tires.
That's a perfect analogy. And speaking of maintenance, let's talk about energy management techniques that research has shown to be effective.
I'm all ears.
According to recent studies, one of the most effective techniques is what's called strategic renewal, taking regular breaks before you hit the wall of exhaustion.
But doesn't that seem counterintuitive? Won't we get less done?
Actually, research shows the opposite. Studies indicate that professionals who take regular renewal breaks are more productive over the long term.
That's fascinating. What other techniques have been proven to work?
Another key finding is the importance of what researchers call radical flexibility, being willing to adjust your routines based on your energy levels rather than sticking to rigid schedules.
Can you give an example?
Sure. If you notice you're most creative in the morning, schedule your innovative work then, rather than sticking to traditional time management rules.
That makes so much sense. But how do we maintain this over the long term?
This is where motivation comes in. Recent psychology research highlights the importance of having a growth mindset rather than a fixed mindset.
Can you explain the difference?
A growth mindset, according to studies, means believing that your abilities can be developed through dedication and effort. It's not about being naturally good at something.
So it's more about the journey than the destination?
Exactly, and research shows that people with this mindset are more resilient and maintain motivation longer, even when facing challenges.
Let's talk about practical implementation. How can people start applying these principles?
Studies suggest starting with small, manageable changes. For example, begin with a 5-minute meditation practice rather than committing to an hour.
That seems less overwhelming.
Right, and research shows that these small wins build momentum and confidence over time.
What about people who say they're too busy to focus on renewal?
That's like saying you're too busy driving to stop for gas. Studies show that neglecting renewal leads to decreased productivity and eventual burnout.
Ooh, that's a powerful way to put it.
And here's what's interesting. Research indicates that the busier you are, the more crucial renewal becomes.
So what's the first step someone should take?
According to studies, start by tracking your energy levels throughout the day. Notice when you're most productive and when you tend to crash.
That sounds doable. What next?
Then use that data to design your renewal practices. Research shows that personalized approaches are more effective than one-size-fits-all solutions.
I'm curious about the role of relationships in all this. How do they fit in?
Studies consistently show that strong social connections are crucial for maintaining long-term motivation and resilience.
So it's not just about individual practices?
Not at all. Research indicates that having a support system significantly increases the likelihood of maintaining positive changes.
What about measuring progress? How do we know if we're actually sharpening the saw effectively?
Studies suggest tracking both objective measures like sleep quality and subjective ones like energy levels and mood.
Any specific tools or methods recommended by research?
Yes, many studies support the use of simple tracking apps or journals. The key is consistency rather than complexity.
What about setbacks? They're inevitable, right?
Absolutely. Research shows that expecting and planning for setbacks actually increases long-term success rates.
That's counterintuitive.
It is, but studies show that people who view setbacks as learning opportunities rather than failures are more likely to maintain their renewal practices.
As we wrap up, what's the most important thing for our listeners to remember?
Research consistently shows that renewal isn't a luxury, it's a necessity for sustainable high performance.
And it's not just about working less, right?
Exactly. It's about working smarter by maintaining your most valuable tool, yourself.
Any final thoughts?
Yes, studies show that the most successful people aren't those who push hardest, but those who recover smartest. And remember, just like a sharp saw cuts more efficiently, a renewed mind and body perform more effectively.
Remember, you wouldn't run your phone's battery down to 0 every day. Don't do it to yourself either.
You know that moment when you realize something you learned years ago is still changing your life today? That's exactly what we're exploring with Stephen Covey's 7 Habits. Today, we're wrapping up our series on these transformative principles that have shaped millions of lives and showing you how they're more relevant than ever in 2025.
And what's fascinating is how these habits aren't just quick fixes or life hacks. They're fundamental principles that actually reshape who you are at your core.
You know, that's such a crucial distinction. We're not talking about personality tricks here, right?
Not at all. In fact, Covey discovered something really interesting during his 25 years of research. He found that before World War I, success was all about character, things like humility, integrity, and courage.
Wait, what changed after World War I?
There was this massive shift to what Covey calls the personality ethic, where success became all about your public image and behaviors. But here's the thing, those were just quick fixes that didn't last.
That's so relevant to today's social media world, isn't it?
Exactly. And that's why these habits are more important than ever. They're about building character from the inside out, not just managing your image.
Let's break down how these habits work together. There's actually a progression, right?
Yes, and this is what makes Covey's framework so brilliant. The habits take you from dependence to independence, and then to something even more powerful, interdependence.
Hold on, most people think independence is the ultimate goal. Why isn't it?
That's one of Covey's most profound insights. While society champions independence, he found that interdependence actually yields the greatest results. It's about recognizing that working with others produces better outcomes than going it alone.
So walk us through how this progression works with the habits.
The first 3 habits are about achieving personal victory, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first. These move you from dependence to independence.
And then what happens?
The next 3 habits, think win-win, seek first to understand, and synergize, these take you from independence to interdependence. They're about working effectively with others.
And the 7th habit?
Sharpen the saw. It's about continuous improvement and renewal. It's what keeps all the other habits sustainable.
Let's dig deeper into that first habit, being proactive. What does that really mean in practice?
It's about taking responsibility for your life. You know, there's this powerful story about Viktor Frankl that really illustrates this.
The psychiatrist who was in the concentration camps?
Yes. Even in those horrific circumstances, he discovered what he called the ultimate human freedom. The freedom to choose how to respond to any situation. The Nazis couldn't take that away from him.
That's incredibly powerful. And it really puts our daily challenges in perspective, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Being proactive means focusing on your circle of influence, the things you can actually do something about, rather than just worrying about your circle of concern.
Let's talk about the second habit, beginning with the end in mind. How does that work?
It's about having a clear vision of your destination before you start the journey. You need to know where you're going to make effective use of your resources.
And that leads into the third habit?
Exactly, putting first things first. Once you know where you want to go, you can prioritize what's truly important rather than just what's urgent.
That's where a lot of people struggle, isn't it? The urgent often drowns out the important.
Yes, and that's why Covey's time management matrix is so helpful. It helps you distinguish between what's urgent and what's truly important.
Let's move to the interpersonal habits. Think win-win. Why is this so crucial?
It's about seeking solutions that benefit all parties. This isn't just being nice, it's about creating sustainable relationships and partnerships.
And that connects with the fifth habit.
Seek first to understand, then to be understood. It's about truly listening instead of just waiting for your turn to speak.
That's harder than it sounds, isn't it?
Much harder. Most people listen with the intent to reply rather than to understand. But when you really listen, you make better decisions and build stronger relationships.
And then we have synergy. What makes this different from just teamwork?
Synergy is about creating something greater than the sum of its parts. It's what happens when you combine the previous habits, being proactive, thinking win-win, and truly understanding others.
Let's talk about how these habits have evolved over time. Are they still relevant in 2025?
More than ever. In fact, the rapid pace of technological change and globalization makes these principles even more crucial.
How so?
Well, think about how much information and how many distractions we face today. Having clear principles to guide your decisions is more important than ever.
And the emphasis on interdependence seems particularly relevant in our connected world.
Exactly. In today's interconnected world, the ability to collaborate effectively and understand diverse perspectives is crucial for success.
What about implementation? How do people actually put these habits into practice?
The key is to start small and be consistent. For example, with being proactive, you might start by identifying one area where you're being reactive and consciously choose different responses.
And I imagine it's important to work on these habits in order?
Yes, because they build on each other. You need to master private victory before you can achieve public victory.
What about the seventh habit, sharpening the saw? How does that fit in?
It's about continuous improvement in 4 areas: physical, mental, social, emotional, and spiritual. Without this renewal, the other habits aren't sustainable.
That's interesting. It's like maintenance for the other habits.
Exactly. Think of it like recharging your batteries. You need to consistently renew yourself to maintain effectiveness.
What's the biggest challenge people face when trying to implement these habits?
Often, it's the paradigm shift required. These habits require you to fundamentally change how you see the world, not just change your behaviors.
And that's not easy, is it?
No, but that's what makes it powerful. When you change how you see things, the things you see change.
As we wrap up our series, what's the key message you want listeners to take away?
These habits aren't just techniques, they're principles that, when internalized, transform who you are at your core. And that transformation is what leads to lasting effectiveness.
And it's not about quick fixes, right?
Not at all. It's about building character from the inside out. That takes time, but the results are worth it.
What would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by trying to implement all 7 habits at once?
Start with one habit, master it, then move to the next. Remember, this is about progress, not perfection.
That's really encouraging.
And remember, every small step you take in living these principles creates positive momentum for bigger changes.
Any final thoughts as we conclude our series?
These habits have stood the test of time because they're based on universal principles. They worked in 1989, they work in 2025, and they'll work decades from now.
Because they're about human nature, which doesn't change.
Exactly. The technology and tools we use may change, but the principles of effective living remain constant.
Well, that brings us to the end of our 7 Habits series. Remember, effectiveness isn't about doing more things right, it's about doing the right things.
And just like Covey said, what we are speaks far louder than anything we can say. So start being the person you want to become, one habit at a time.
Thanks so much for tuning into Mazshow. I'm truly grateful to have you on this journey, exploring knowledge, history, and the ideas that shape our world and future. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to hit follow or subscribe and share it with someone who loves learning as much as you do. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep reaching for a better tomorrow. This is Maz signing off.
Mazshow, let's go, open up your mind and grow. Facts and stories, things you never know. Every episode, we light the glow. Step into the world of Mazshow. Turn it up, let the rhythm flow. Feel the beat, take control. Don't be shy, just let it go. This is where the magic grows. Tune in now, it's the Mazshow. Lights up bright and minds will glow. Every day we learn and grow. begin to shine. Breaking limits, crossing lines. Every moment feels divine in the world of Mazshow time. Turn it up, let the rhythm flow. Feel the beat, take control. Don't be shy, just let it go. This is where the magic grows. Tune in now, it's the Mazshow. Lights so bright and minds will glow. Every day we learn and grow. Come along and join the flow.